All right. Looks like 19. Certain men of eloquence at Athens, versed in public affairs and judicial pleadings, disputed on the other side, among whom was Menedemus, lately my guest at Rome. But when he had observed that there is a sort of wisdom which is employed in inquiring into the methods of settling and managing governments, he, though a ready speaker, was promptly attacked by the other, a man of abundant learning and of an almost incredible variety of copiousness of argument, who maintained that every portion of such wisdom must be derived from philosophy, and that whatever was established in a state concerning the immortal gods, the discipline of youth, justice, patience, temperance, moderation in everything, and other matters, without which states would either not subsist at all or be corrupt in morals, was nowhere to be found in the petty treatises of the rhetoricians. For if those teachers of rhetoric included in their art such a multitude of the most important subjects, why, he asked, were their books crammed with rules about promes and perorations and such trifles, for so he called them, while about the modeling of states, the composition of laws, about equity, justice, integrity, about mastering the appetites and forming the morals of mankind, not one single syllable was to be found in their pages. Their precepts he ridiculed in such a manner as to show that the teachers were not only destitute of the knowledge which they arrogated to themselves, but that they did not even know the proper art and method of speaking. For he thought that the principal business of an orator was that he might appear to those to whom he spoke to be such as he would wish to appear, that this was to be attained by a life of good reputation, on which those teachers of rhetoric had laid down nothing in their precepts, and that the minds of the audience should be affected in such a manner as the orator would have them to be affected, and object also which could be by no means be attained unless the speaker understood by what methods, by what arguments, and by what sort of language the minds of men are moved in any particular direction, but that these matters were involved and concealed in the profoundest doctrines of philosophy, which these rhetoricians had not touched even with the extremity of their lips. These assertions Menedemus endeavored to refute, but rather by authorities than by arguments, for, repeating them from memory many noble passages from the orations of Demosthenes, he showed that the orator, while he swayed the minds of judges or of the people by his eloquence, was not ignorant by what means he attained his end, which Charmadas denied that any one could know without philosophy. 20. In this, Charmadas replied that he did not deny that Demosthenes was possessed of consummate ability and the utmost energy of eloquence, but whether he had these powers from natural genius or because he was, as was acknowledged, a diligent hearer of Plato, it was not what Demosthenes could do, but what the rhetoricians taught that was the subject of inquiry. Sometimes, too, he was carried so far by the drift of his discourse as to maintain that there was no art at all in speaking, and having shown by various arguments that we are so formed by nature as to be able to flatter and to insinuate ourselves as suppliants into the favor of those from whom we wish to obtain anything, as well as to terrify our enemies by menaces, to relate matters of fact, to confirm what we assert, to refute what is said against us, and finally to use entreaty or lamentation, particulars in which the whole faculties of the orator are employed, and the practice and exercise sharpened the understanding and produced fluency of speech. He rested his cause in conclusion on a multitude of examples that he adduced. For first, as if stating an indisputable fact, he affirmed that no writer on the art of rhetoric was ever even moderately eloquent, going back as far as I know, not what Corax and Apicius, who, he said, appeared to be the inventors and first authors of rhetorical science, and then named a vast number of the most eloquent men who had neither learned nor cared to understand the rules of art, and among whom, whether in jest or because he thought or had heard something to that effect, he instanced me as one who had received none of their instructions, and yet, as he said, had some abilities as a speaker, of which two observations I readily granted the truth of one, that I had never been instructed, but thought that in the other he was either joking with me or was under some mistake. But he denied that there was any art except such as lay in things that were known and thoroughly understood, things tending to the same subject and never misleading, but that everything treated by the orators was doubtful and uncertain, as it was uttered by those who did not fully understand it, and was heard by them to whom knowledge was not meant to be communicated, but merely false, or at least obscure notions intended to live in their minds only for a short time. In short, he seemed bent on convincing me that there was no art of speaking, and that no one could speak skillfully or so as fully to illustrate a subject, but one who had attained that knowledge which is delivered by the most learned of the philosophers. On which occasions Carmatus used to say with a passionate admiration of your genius, Crassius, that I appeared to him very easy in listening, and you most pernicious, in disputation. God, I can't say these words.